Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Life Chronicles and Deep Dives podcast. I'm here with Coach Cornelia, all the way in Romania.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back.
And my name is Coach Mike Ranjit. I'm here in the United States. Today, we're going to be talking about feminism. I hope you'll stick with us for the whole podcast. I'm going to throw some thoughts out there and some ideas that are going to be quite controversial, but they're not opinions. It's just some thoughts. Cornelia, take us away on feminism.
So first of all, I just want to make a note. I'm doing a very good distinction between feminism and the women's rights movement. So I think there are two very different things. And in this podcast, I'm not going to refer on the women's rights movements. I'm going to refer to the feminism as a current that changed the world, in my opinion. I think ever since the women started to want to be equal with men, everything changed. And in my opinion, not in a good way.
Not in a good way. Okay. So why do you think that it has turned out not as good with women entering the workforce?
I'm not saying that it's not good that we enjoy the workforce. It's a very good thing. We should have this right. So remember the distinction I made between the feminism and the women's rights. So it's a right. We should have the right to do anything we want, just like men have this right to do anything they want. But at the same time, I think that this equality between men and women, it's very wrong. We shouldn't be thinking about being more congruent with each other. So completing each other. The men are completing women, and so reciprocating this relationship in completing each other, not being equal, not fighting each other. We should have the same privileges like men have. It's just that I think it's some things that should be feminine and other ones should be masculine. That's my opinion. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be exceptions, but I think that some jobs are for women, some are for men. And I'm not talking only about the workforce. I'm talking about in the household. So we each have our roles to fulfill, but not the equality ones, but the completing ones, where you become one, being together, man and woman.
Okay, that makes sense. So you're right. I'm gonna go with the part where, like women should have the right to do whatever they want. The part that's interesting is that like when we've taken the women's rights and the male and female like completion unit, right? Because it has to be complete to, pass, genetic code forward to produce a baby.
Yeah.
In the household, there are masculine things and feminine things. Now, that's not to be said that women can't do those things, as is the case that a lot of like single parents or single women do end up doing those things. But you're right. In a family household unit, there's like a yin and a yang. I think you mentioned that in a previous podcast of how things need to line up. When I look at feminism, right, moving women forward, I totally agree that women should be allowed to do things. There are some caveats to that, right? So women's fought for all these rights and all of these equality. They want to be able to do the same thing men can, and that's fine. You do what you want. However, it's almost kind of like going against the instinct that is genetically imprinted in each person. These genetic imprints kind of guide how people survive, right? So the male hunts, gathers, works. Now is more the case. The women, they used to take care of the household. Now, and the kids, household kids, and then that would just move the
Mhm.
unit forward. In fact, there's a lot of cohesiveness for women with that kind of environment. Now, that's not to say that I don't think that women should be working. Sure, go to work, but there's a catch. By going to work, the governments know that if they have a workforce that's just male, right? They tax that workforce. Female, let's say the female's not working. No females are working.
Mhm.
They're missing out on taxing half the population. So it would be, right,
Practical,
incentivized
yeah, sure.
to encourage women to get into the workforce, right? The
Mhm.
reason being is because now that they've encouraged that, they've incentivized more taxation. So they can collect more money and then, fund more programs or whatever else they want to do. Um, the downside to that is that women are spending more time out of the house. They're not spending time, with the children as much. So they're missing out on that connection. And you're right, talking about completing like the men, if both me and my wife are out, gone all day from the house, we're not really like living in our house most of the time. We're
Just
actually
visiting,
not in our you're not
visiting
in your
in
house,
return. Yeah.
that you're not utilizing the house as much about half the time now, because nobody's at home, everybody's at work. I mean, that's just a little tangent that I kind of like went
Yeah.
down.
You said the word, very important word. So it's not a home, it's just a house.
Mhm,
When the house is empty all day long, so you just meet up in the evening at home, eat something, and go to sleep.
mhm. And I mean, that's pretty intense. Like, this is a huge investment to buy a house, and you're not even in it most of the time.
Mm.
That's like that's like the old like when you look at people that like buy the boats and then they only use them like once a year, right? They
Mm-hmm.
spend all this money on this boat that they're not using, right?
Because they are rich, Micah. Only
Yeah,
the rich ones are doing
only
it.
rich people, yeah, get to use their boats because they can only afford the gas. Um,
Yeah.
Now there is something that's interesting. I think that, even though women are in the workforce, fine, they can be in the workforce. I say that like they have permission. That's, I don't have an opinion if they're in the workforce, is what I'm trying to say. However, if they're in the workforce, let's say there are some women that believe that they, like they want to be at home, right? They want to be at home all day. They want to cook, clean, take care of the house, take care of the kids. They want to do that. I've seen a movement to where those women are attacked by other
Yeah.
women because they want that tradition. It goes against what their tradition, like that traditional lifestyle goes against what they think that they're fighting for. They can have it both ways. And in fact,
Yeah.
just because the one woman wants to be at home doesn't mean that's wrong. And just because one woman wants to be at work, that's not wrong. It's just that, remember, that genetic imprint, right?
Mhm.
One's fighting against the instinct and, maybe has a more career driven life. The other is, going back to that child rearing, home taking care of, cooking, cleaning, the more feminine role in the family unit.
Yeah. I was thinking about how weird it is that you want some rights, but at the same time you're taking the right from the ones that are wanting to stay at home. So it's everything is so double-sided these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Double measures all day long. So what I felt as a woman, I've been trying since I made my own family and I'm having a kid. I've been trying to work from home as much as possible or part-time jobs so that I can I really believe in spending time with the kid, investing in your kid, investing emotions, investing a lot of time. At the same time, as you know, I prefer to cook at home. So most of our meals are cooked at home in the same day. Um, I have a lot of friends who, I'm not saying that they laughed at me, but they judge me somehow for it. why don't you eat out? Why don't you order something? Why are you wasting this time? I mean, it's for me, it's not wasted time. It's earned time because sometimes I'm cooking with my daughter.
Hmm.
It's healthy food at the same time, right? So you can be judged if you're choosing this kind of more domestic life as a
Yeah.
woman. This where you have to be perfectly arranged, have the perfect makeup, perfect perfume, perfectly dressed up, and go to work and work until 6 in the evening and come back home very tired. You don't have time to talk to anyone, just want to eat and go to sleep.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad. And like I said, because the governments are I'm always going to go back to this because the governments are
Yeah,
incentivized
I
to
know.
get women to work, right?
Mhm.
Now they can say that inflation is a good, right? Because inflation does happen, right? Inflation's happening because, well, more people are spending money, the cost of things goes up, right? They can collect more taxes on that, right? So women go into work all day, and now if we're going to retirement age in the United States is roughly around 65. That's two people that they're collecting that one third of their entire life income goes to the government, if not more.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
very
crazy.
profitable for the government. Yes, it is. It's profitable for the government, but in my opinion, is not profitable for the woman, for
Mhm.
herself, is not profitable for the society, it's not profitable for the family, and is not profitable for the kids.
Right.
So I'm not very traditionalist. I think the woman should have a saying in the house. I'm always trying to impose with my husband and so on. So it's not like I don't think the woman should speak up and have a mind of her own.
Mhm.
But I also think that our way of being, I mean, short in short words, it's stay in your energy, feminine energy, masculine energy. These
Mhm.
days you can find families with the man who is in the feminine energy and the woman is in the masculine energy.
Mhm. That's a big switch, but that also creates like population problems, right? So
Yeah.
effeminate men uh create a population problem. Segueing off of that and into something that's interesting, women have fought so much for their rights um that but now that with the LGBTQ movements, like
Hmm.
we're giving the women have fought for so many of those rights,
Yeah.
but now they're giving them back to the man. Um, and I'm going to say this, and it's quite controversial. I'm going to say it right now. Medically, scientifically, there are two genders, uh, and so that's what I'm going to go with that because it has to be. I mean, the way I look at it is it's like you're straight, you're gay, or you're both.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like it's like there's not really we don't need all these other ones. Three's good. Now
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
don't, but the women's have fought so much that they've given their freedoms, their rights back up to the man.
I've seen the other day I've seen on TikTok that they put litters in schools for the kids that are feeling kids. So this is way too far. It went way too far. And the ones that are really transgender, they don't recognize this how do you call it, ideology, this new ideology.
Mhm. I
They are
think
more
it's
they they are more discreet, they mind their business, they don't want to. I mean, I'm not going on the street and telling everyone I'm straight, here I am, I'm straight, like they're
mhm,
doing. So why do you need a pride month? I don't understand this either. Do I have a month for me because I'm straight? Why don't you mind your own? This is something that should be in your privacy, right? And outside of it, we are just people.
mhm. Like I've said
But
it before, like I don't care what somebody thinks or who they want to be or whatever, right? Just don't make me live your
yeah,
life, though. You know what I mean?
yeah. At the
Which is,
same time, like I'm sorry to interrupt you, but at the same time, this is a problem in sports, in
mhm,
prisons. We've seen cases in sports where some guy decided that he's a woman just when he was 24 years old because he was not able to win anything until then. And then he decided that he's a woman and this became a she and went into women's sports and won everything. So
mhm.
this is something that doesn't sound right with me. The same in prisons. So many serial rapists that are suddenly they're feeling they're she. So they are going to women's prisons. I mean, it's crazy.
There, yeah,
It has to stop
there's a
somehow.
it well because it's risking the female, like I mean the actual female, right? So you're right. There are people that are born a certain way, right? But then there's other people, right? I've always said this, right? If somebody can take advantage of something or do something wrong, and get away with it, they
Yeah.
will, right? So part of that is like playing a victim, right? Part of that is like trying to be unique. And part of that's like trying to find a group of people that, like you can bandwagon with. You're right. The real transgender people are really trying to be uh who they are. They don't need to advertise. They just are
Mhm.
who they are, right?
Yeah.
Um, as far as the Pride Month goes, like I said, I don't care, what you are, as long as, there's I would say don't come after the kids. You're right. You know what I mean? Like don't come after the kids. But also it's happening. They're bringing this into the child's life. Um, and I can see that being a very slippery slope towards something that's not great. But also we're affecting people in developmental years, right? Um, and
Yeah.
again, if we go for if a child or somebody goes for a transitioning surgery, they're no longer able to pass their genetic code forward.
Hmm.
Their lifeline stops. Now that was a little tangent. I think we went off a little bit away from
We didn't.
feminism, but
I was thinking about maybe we went off topic a little bit, but we didn't because, in my opinion, so again, I'm saying my not my thoughts. I'm saying my opinions. So those moms who are taking their kids to hormonal therapies, those are the most vocal feminists. So they are the ones that want equality. They are modern women. You know, those person that are embracing anything new just because they want to be there, right?
mhm.
Without having a filter, without thinking about if it's good or not good for their kids in this case. So they just want to be there in, how do you say it in English? When you want to be in fashion, right?
Oh,
So
like popular, yeah.
yeah, it's just a fashion now. It's a fashion to be transgender, it's a fashion to be feminist, it's a fashion to be, I don't know, to accept that your kid maybe is a cat or a wolf or whatever. I've seen kids with tails around the city. What's this? It's
Mhm.
crazy. So if if the traditional family would be in place right now, this wouldn't happen.
Well, I
That's how
mean, so I mean, yeah, that's true. Traditional family, right? If we had father, mother, traditional family, and that's what a lot of things I'm seeing, and a lot of that is because the female is going to work, right? They've taken on a non-traditional feminine role, right? They've taken on a traditionally masculine role, right?
I.
So what are we losing? We're losing time with the mother or woman taking care of the house, taking care of the kid, teaching the kid in school, right? Now there's something to be said for homeschooling now, right? I mean, if I'm kind of wary about public schools with what they're teaching because like a lot of times now like the teachers are allowed to keep the curriculum or whatever away from the parents usually
Yeah.
find out about it too late. um
Not yet in Europe, so it's only over there. In Europe, it's not like that. Not
It's not,
yet.
not
And I
yet.
hope it will be. Yeah.
Okay. But again, by moving us away from those traditional feminine roles that are in the household, you can see a decline in society. You could call it progression of society, but I would say it's a decline of, the family unit. And now apparently it's controversial to call for one man, one woman marriage, or union. I don't even care if you have marriage, because I think the certificate is just another way for the government
I
to
mean,
tax
how
you. But
should you call it?
well, I mean, it's just a union, right? I mean, it's just like two people together. I mean, I just think the certificate part of the marriage is like, you shouldn't need a license. You should just be able to say, okay, yeah, we're married, right?
Mhm.
um it's just because it costs money, right? So everything costs money, is a tax, right? So you're getting taxed to get married. When I look at it, it's controversial to say that the traditional family unit is a good thing. And so that feminine
Yeah.
energy is like dissipating out of
Mhm.
society. I mean, there's some, right? And a lot of time we've talked about this.
It's dirty.
A lot of time we've talked, I think we talked about it this previously, is that like when that energy is like moving away, the masculine energy is kind of like dropping off too, right? So now
Mm,
we've got like masculine energy dropping off, right? It's, they hear toxic masculinity. That's
mm,
instinctual masculinity, and that's there to move the species forward. If we don't have those things, then we're, like, we're going to start failing. And in fact, I think you're seeing the beginning of failing societies, because we're moving away from the traditional.
yeah.
Well, let's say, I mean, the traditional instinctual family unit.
Yeah, if you think about like a woman, let's take a woman, right? She wanted to progress, right? And she became feminist and she decided that she wants to be equal with a man. She became equal with a man, but not only in her profession, she wanted equality at home as well. So she became equal at home as well. And now she wants a real man with her, but he cannot be a real man because she's not a real woman. I mean, she's not in her feminine energy.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my grandmother, she never painted anything like outside, like a fence or something, because when they started the spring cleaning, for example, each of them knew what they have to do. So my grandfather was doing only the masculine things and she was doing the feminine things. And it's never been a problem between them. Who is the boss? I am the boss, I'm not the boss, and so on. It was just this completion I'm talking about, this
Mm-hmm.
unity. I'm doing my part, you're doing your part, and we're just getting along. Whilst today, you see a woman who is, I mean, and there are many cases, we have to be honest about it. There are so many women that are humiliating their husbands. They have a lot of pretensions, they want so many things to be executed somehow,
Mm-hmm.
if they're using their masculinity in all of the areas, the woman doesn't like it. So I don't understand this paradox. So you
Mm-hmm.
want a man, but the man should be a man only when you want him to be a man,
Mm-hmm.
and you should be a woman only when you want to be a woman. He should be at your disposal, but at the same time, you want him to be independent and have personality. It's a little bit a gray area. Where does it take us? To divorces, kids without families, or destroyed kids, traumatized kids. And I have these classes I'm doing with teenagers. And I told you, most of them have problems because they don't have their mothers with them.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have the love that they need. That's the starting point in their life. They don't feel loved. So everything is ruined.
You're right. Like teenagers, a lot of families that have fallen apart, or kids that don't have mothers, or mothers that are not nearly as present, since we're specifically talking about feminism, you're seeing a decline in society. So you're seeing more kids getting in trouble, more kids, brazenly violating, laws, more kids with mental health issues. I mean, just not having parental figures, specifically the mother there, can be detrimental to the development of a child into teenage years and into adulthood. I think I just wanted to touch back on how, like, feminine energy is necessary within the household. It's also necessary out in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So the species can't survive without that feminine energy. And you did touch on something where, like, the males have become more effeminate and the females have taken this dominating role. Well,
Yeah.
what happens now is, you've seen, let's say they're doing that, and also let's say the female is going off into college, or they're going more career oriented, or they're going full blown progressive, and they're um, really not appreciating the male in the world, right? They feel victimized all the time, or they're attacking the
Yeah.
male, right? Now,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we've taken that, what they've done is they've now reduced their ability to procreate. So by taking these aggressive stances against males, or victimized stances, they've reduced their ability to meet other males to procreate. And what happens is, and we talked about this in our last podcast, I think, or two podcasts ago, is when they've taken these stances, by the time that they're like ready to settle down and they're ready to have kids, it could be too late. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? They spent all their time going to work. They spent all their time, attacking males or being victimized. I mean, I'm not saying that, like, somebody that actually is attacked by a male
Mm-hmm.
uh, isn't a victim. I'm saying, like, people that, if a male is in a room and you feel victimized just because that male's in a room, that's the kind of energy that I'm talking about. Um, by having this, and having society encourage this, and that includes uh, these gender ideologies, right? Where you can be
Yeah.
all of these different things. I mean, you can have different feelings at different times, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's your identity. But like I said, do what you
Like,
want.
about this one, I mean, you can have any identity you want. You can be an alien from, if you are asking me, but don't what's the word? Don't walk around and show it to everyone and yell about it and ask for the society to change for these things that you are feeling. We should go back to the facts, like you said. We have two genders. I don't care. Maybe you feel a woman today, but you're not going into the woman's toilet where you can meet my daughter.
Yeah, I don't
So
think that's
why would
cool.
not be allowed? So that was my note on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a daughter, and, like, I see how, like, the push for to bring cross dressers, trans drag queens, like, they're involving kids. I saw something today where it was like a naked bicycle parade. It was somebody that made a post about a naked bicycle parade, but there's a kid naked in it. Now, there's nothing wrong with a kid being naked, but the problem is that people that will take advantage of something like that, and
Yeah.
now, and that's what we see happen. They're taking advantage of the prison system. It's being they're taking advantage of women in sports, right?
Mm,
I mean,
yeah.
women fought so much for these rights, and for this empowerment, just to what, give it right back away.
So
um
and they are giving it back because just for the wrong reasons. It's not from empathy or something like this. It's just to be fashionable, just to be in fashion. It's a trend. So this is what the trend is today, and they're just, because being this modern woman, they are in this trend,
mhm.
destroying society.
And I see that, like, I mean, let's take the LGBTQ out of it. There are incentives to not be in the female energy. So,
Yeah.
I mean, society has made it incentivized to not be in the female energy. Well, it's pushing us further and further away as society digresses, devolves away from, like the peak. We're seeing it decline into where everybody's a victim, everybody's, and we will not survive if we continue down that path. Um,
I
we'll
believe
have
we are
to change
weak.
course.
Yeah, I believe we are very weak as society. At least the western part of the world, we are a little bit in the middle. In Romania, for example, we are a little bit in the east, and the part of our country is in the west. But the western part, we're not talking about Russia, China. So the western part of the world, it's very weak right now because the men are feeling feminine, the women are feeling masculine, but at the same time they want to be treated as a woman and feminine. Right? So it's a weak society, and everyone can see it. And this is why I think the East is going well, and while we are not going that well,
Mhm. I mean,
they don't care
so
about traditional family and traditions in general.
mhm. I mean, like if we, the I'm all for females doing whatever they want as long as it's not affecting how I'm living my life, right?
Yeah.
So go to work, do what you want. Um, there's something that was interesting that popped into my head while we were talking about this, and it's not. We kind of like bounced between a couple different topics on this podcast, which is fine. But the one that I thought was interesting is I'm seeing a lot of you said it was like it was trendy or fashionable to have this LGBT like ideology, right? It's fashionable to have non-binary or trans kids, right? Now, there is an interesting thing, and I see a lot of men like just kind of like accepting that this is kind of like what's happening. But I'm also seeing women encouraging this
Yeah.
to happen, right? So, and that's with their own kids, right? So I'm seeing statistical impossibilities. One woman has four trans kids, seems to
Yeah.
be right. So, but
It's
what's
ridiculous.
interesting is that there's like a uh I don't know what it's called, but there's something where like the parent wants the kid to be something else, so they start imposing. It's like brainwashing. You're
Yeah.
brainwashing the kid to be what you want because let's say you wanted a boy and you got a girl, or you got a girl and you wanted a
Hmm.
boy, right?
Yeah.
So I'm seeing that could be a possibility, but also when we look at this societal LGBT trans, right? Okay, be that. I'm seeing a decline in birth rates because of it, right? So
Hmm.
we're deep, right? Um, so it's kind of just like, how do we move forward away from this? Because if you speak up against it, I mean, this podcast is kind of aggressive against this ideology,
I
and
hope so.
I mean, that's just our opinions on it.
Hmm.
If we're having this victimized society all the time, all this divide. I mean, and let's even throw racial divide in there, and then like citizens versus non-citizens, and trans and straight, and we're constantly fighting. Like, I mean, we're not progressing as a society; we're de-evolving uh, away from what needs to happen. Right? A man and a woman need to get together to produce a
Hmm.
child. I mean, if we scale back all the layers and onion of the onion for society, that's literally what needs to happen to survive as a species. But every step of the way, I'm seeing I watch women fight for their rights. I didn't physically watch them do that. I watched them fight for their rights to go to work, to be able to vote, to get educated. But
Hmm.
then now I'm also seeing them give them away. uh,
Yeah.
the pay gap thing. it's absolutely illegal for a company to pay a woman less than a man for the same job.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see that there's the pay disparity is I think it's probably because the type of job, the the type of
Come,
job, like the how much that particular job pays. But if a man were to take a job that a woman has that pays, let's say, $15 an hour, he'd still get paid $15 an hour, right? They're not
mhm.
gonna, right? It should be based off of qualifications. What we are
Yeah.
seeing in the United States is a significant shift for diversity, equity, inclusion, which now means that they're letting people in based off of race or ideology
Mm-hmm.
over merit to job positions, to schools, to, you know what I mean? And what happens is
Vice President, what is Kamala Harris? She's got the job on these criterias, right? Kamala
uh,
Harris. That's
yeah, I
how she
think
got.
so.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, I mean, in Europe, we don't really have a good opinion on her. So she got the job because this and this and this and this,
yeah, I
not
mean, she's a
qualification.
non-performer, from
Yeah.
what I see.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, when I look at all of these pieces together, it scares me. I think we should get back to the traditional family unit. Sure, women can go to work, but I think we should really be focused on the traditional family unit. Um, Kids live better when they
Yeah.
have a traditional family unit. Society will be better if we have the traditional family unit. And I think we need to empower women rather than create victims.
Yeah.
Empowered women, strong women that are still in their feminine energy, but they're empowered, move
Mm-hmm.
society forward.
Yeah.
Victimized
Uh,
women are essentially slaves to the machine.
for sure. Yeah. I was thinking about a novel we had in Romania about a girl and a boy. She's about 20 years old, he's 22. He falls in love with her, and this is this is happening around maybe 80 years ago, 70, 80 years ago. And he was so in love with her, and one day she fell and broke her ankle, and he saw her ankle. And for him it was a huge thing, a huge deal that he saw her ankle, because back in time the woman was dressed decent, so you couldn't see all of the parts. Why was that woman dressed decent? Because her father was the real head of family. He didn't agree with the daughter who was wearing different clothes, so she had to cover herself, right? When the family changed, now you can see everything you want. I mean, I don't want to sound judgy, but the idea of a woman today is not the same like it was before. Because you can see right now, you can see a woman getting naked so fast, getting undressed so fast, showing everything so fast, which I don't think is a good idea. Um, you want to
Secret's
be,
out.
yeah, you want to be respected, but there are some criterias you have to follow in order to be respected, and not for only for the women, it's the same for everyone. So the respect, you gain the respect doing some things, right? As a woman not doing those things, you don't have this respect anymore.
I mean, that's it. I mean, you're essentially, like I said, slave to the machine. I mean, you're basically selling yourself
Yeah.
for, whatever. And that's fine. You want to make money, go ahead. But remember, there is caveats to that, right? So, like you said, right, the loss of respect is hand in hand with those those things, right? It's interesting to see now. like traditional like dress. So like in Islam, like the women covering themselves completely. I don't agree with that completely.
No, me
No,
neither. Not talking about that. So
right,
we're not talking extremist things here. We're
right.
talking about normal things. I mean, don't show your ass, don't show your tits. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying dress up like don't wear a hijab or whatever it's called. Don't it's not something it's their tradition.
Hmm.
They can it's up to them. But it's not something I'm not talking about extremist things. So this is something what you see in the Far East, you can see this those are the real victims.
They're
I mean,
oppressed.
yeah, really bad. If you read some books about it, I think I read everything possible on this subject. Those are the oppressed women. For them, we should fight.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that like they don't have the rights that the women here
Oh
have.
no, they don't
Not at
even
all.
dream about it. No.
Some of them aren't even allowed to be like educated. They can't get education. They have to cover almost entirely, right? I mean,
Mm,
that's a oppression of women.
yeah,
Um,
there are
and
so many regions where if they take their eyes from the ground and dare to look up, they are being killed
mhm.
by their families. So it's crazy. That's something
Well,
worth fighting for.
yeah, and I mean, when we clash societies, I mean, we're seeing it all across Europe.
Mm,
They're importing these two societies. They're importing and they're clashing. They're not really surviving. There's no integration. It's literally one society is coming in and crashing the other society, the existing society. And it's
mm,
right. So like as these women that have fought so much for their rights, they're actually bringing in a society that will oppress
oppressed?
them.
Sure.
So like they bring this society in that's going to oppress them. What I'm seeing now, this the LGBTQ community and females in the United States, most of them aren't oppressed,
No,
but
no.
they're somehow being told that they're victims by our
Mhm.
leadership.
Yeah,
Our
yeah.
leadership should be encouraging strong women uh, and uplifting people, not creating divide by oppression and victimization. And I think that's interesting. It's always interesting to see how things play out because it the government is incentivized to keep us distracted. So women going to work is another distraction.
Mhm.
Women paying taxes, another distraction. Women, fighting for not being like being told they're victims, another distraction, right? Um, it's interesting to watch, but everything that's happening is distracting away from traditional male, female, yin and yang, uh, species survival. And it's
I mean,
dangerous.
if they have strong, independent people, not only women, we talk about men as well.
Mhm.
The government cannot do whatever they want, so it's not in their best interest, right? So
That's
they're
right.
gonna manipulate us somehow. Can't you see that lately, in the last years, it's always been polarized. The society has been polarized, like Russia, Ukraine, COVID, non-believers, non-believers in COVID, and so on. Now Israel and Gaza, they keep bringing subjects on the table that polarize us. LGBTQ movement, this thing that is happening, this horrible thing that is happening with the kids, like the hormonal treatments in the schools. Everything is polarizing the society. If they have a strong society, united society, they wouldn't be
Mhm.
able to do anything.
Right. I mean, and it's scary. One of the biggest things that I will fight for. So like I do a support group for victims and survivors of narcissistic abuse, right? Um, I also have an escape bag program for victims of domestic violence. So I literally can bring a bag to somebody or somebody that needs help. It's got everything they need to just grab and go, right? The next
Amazing.
program I'm going to be trying to get going is one that helps people get into therapy that are abuse victims. And
Mm-hmm.
after that, I want to work towards saving children from abusive situations, specifically child sex trafficking. When I look at some of these movements that are happening in society, we are seeing an increased targeting of children for sexual purposes, whether it's including them into adult themed LGBTQ, whatever, or whether we're hypersexualizing children. I mean, this is detrimental to our society, but it's also degression to more animalistic things. So, and it's dangerous because it puts kids at risk. And
Mm-hmm.
I do not like people coming after kids.
Yeah. In the Netherlands, they are trying to push a law. I hope they didn't yet, where they say that the pedophilia doesn't exist. So if the kid says yes, it's a yes, so it's fine.
See,
Which is
and that is dangerous, and that's a slippery slope. I mean, everything that I'm seeing leads towards that becoming
Mhm.
a normal. And that's because strong women aren't standing up, right? Men are still oppressing women to a degree that by way of making them feel victimized, right? And they're keeping them away from traditional family roles. We don't have a strong family unit. Um, it's destabilizing society and it's leading towards some very nasty things.
yeah, same as faith. I think that family goes hand in hand with faith, and I think that once we go, and I know what are your thoughts about religion, but I think that um being faithful to something gives you some, besides the spiritual part, right, gives you some principles to guide you in life, what's good, what's bad, and so on. Gives you the same principles to give it to your kids.
Mhm. And just like you said, a unified society, the government wouldn't be able to get away with what they're doing now. So a unified society would look like strong family units, strong
Yeah,
empowered women, children abiding the laws, doing the right thing, getting an education, going out into the workforce, or living their life however they choose to live it.
and being able to deal with life, Micah, because nowadays the kids are so weakened by their parents, by the mothers, in my
Mhm.
opinion. Like a mother who is not allowing the kid to fly the nest, to explore,
Mhm.
to learn how to be independent, is growing someone who is not potent in society.
Mhm.
So we're gonna have a very weak society later. So we're not gonna the kids that are nowadays, they are not very strong, uh, physical or mentally.
Mhm. I agree.
Yeah,
And they'll be the ones coming up next
yeah,
to try to lead the world, right? So it's kind
gonna
of
depend on them.
scary
Mhm.
when you look at, some of these people, and how they feel victimized and how they have this idea, and then they go out into society and they're going to lead society with those same ideological victimized values, right? People are weaponizing that victimization. So they're
Yeah.
weaponizing it. As soon as somebody says they're the victim, everybody flocks to their side, whether it's true or not,
Hmm.
in most cases.
Yeah.
I've been on the opposite side of that. I dated a covert narcissist. She portrayed herself as the victim. Uh, and so she garnered a lot of sympathy and support and weaponized that against me, right?
Yeah.
Now, so when we have children and women are not a vital part of their life, right? I mean, think about it. From Because women are going to work, women are sending their kids to daycare, right? So we've moved away from that kid being raised by the parent and being raised by somebody else because the parent either wants to work or has to work. Most cases, it's the parent, the female, the woman has to work. So they're not spending those formative bonding years with, the kid. School has gotten longer.
Mm-hmm.
So more kids are spending more time away from home with somebody else teaching them about life. Now, that's not saying education is not important, but the parent isn't educating the kid as much. Why? Because the parents, the mom, the dad, isn't educating the kid as much because they're at work. They've
Mm-hmm.
got taxes or bills to pay. They have errands to run because there's so many distractions in life to, you got to have this, you got to have that, you got to pay this, you got to do that, right? They're not actively part of their child's life as much. They've passed that off onto, the teachers. Now, again, education is important. Where we get dangerous is where education allows ideologies to come in, right? Teaching history, math, science, writing, reading, those things are important. When we start including ideologies in that education, that's where we start seeing kids basically, let's say their parent has a parent unit, um, the family has like a specific set of values. Well, if the teacher's teaching the kids something else, like you're saying, like the school's offering the hormone therapy, or like in our cases, there are schools that are hiding from their parents the highly sexualized curriculum or the LGBTQ. It's almost like brainwashing a kid during their formative years to that ideology. Uh, if the teacher is LGBTQ, um,
Plus,
that's fine, but they don't need to bring that into the school to teach my kid that, right? That's, it's scary. It's that, I mean, it's dangerous.
what I see in my life coaching program with teenagers, I see them disoriented, lost, like you said. They don't have these values. They don't know which the values should be.
Mhm.
Even I have a teenager in my program right now who doesn't like TikTok. So he's more into like football and other things, but he feels that he needs to have it because he cannot talk with the others about anything else. So they are talking about TikTok, so he has to have TikTok. It's like they're losing their personality. They don't know who they are. They don't know how to stand for themselves because the parents don't stand for the kids, don't defend the kids in front of the school because you cannot do it anymore. I mean, I'm not sure how it is over there, but in Romania, you can still defend your kid in school. We don't have any ideologies in here. We don't have any LGBTQ whatever movement
Mhm.
of mainstream. They're still kept somehow. The traditional family is still in power here. It's not the same in Denmark, where you can see a lot of divorces, a lot of lonely kids who are staying a lot of hours in school. They're almost I mean, they're not forcing you, but they're telling you that it should be much better if you let the kid to stay in school as many hours as possible. So
Mhm.
after school, they're going into an after school where the system can implement the its ideas, right, in their minds.
Right.
So they're not in Denmark. It's even a saying that the kid doesn't belong to the family; it belongs to the society.
Yeah. I mean, and that's crazy because you just said something that really struck home with me. And it's that we have these kids that are confused, they're lost, they don't know who they are. And if the parent, the woman, the father isn't helping that child develop, learn who that somebody else is. If the
Sure.
parent isn't present, somebody else is going to be present to teach. The kid's going to absorb it from somebody else, and that's where we get dangerous because we're we're seeing that in the schools. We're
Mhm.
seeing that. Um, I think we've got a lot of different topics in this one podcast. I think we moved from, like I said, that the title's feminism, but we may have like several other different like titles in there or something. But we definitely covered a lot. This is a very controversial episode. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you can leave them in the comment section below. We'll link our websites in the description box. And Cornelia, do you have anything else to add?
Just that even if people don't agree, not everyone agrees with us. It's something that maybe we should think about. Think about how the society changed. What do we want? Maybe we don't know what we want. Before they used to know what kind of society they want. We want to be strong, we want to do this, and we want to build and so on. Right now, we don't know what we want. We want Netflix, TikTok, LGBTQ plus, hormonal treatments, and this polarized thing that is occupying our minds. So maybe we just for a second stop and think about what family means, how important it is.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one.